So I've been spending quite a lot of time learning Material Maker over the last few weeks, and it's quickly becoming one of my favorite programs. If you don't know, Material Maker is a software in which you create materials. Unlike traditional methods such as texture painting or layer-based texturing that you would normally do in something like Substance Painter, Material Maker uses a node-based system. This can seem very unintuitive at first, connecting nodes in a messy graph to make something cool, but once you get your head around it, it's a super powerful and satisfying way to make materials. This style workflow has been used within the AAA games industry for quite a while now, and for pretty good reason. This isn't the be-all end-all of video game texturing. There are many methods you can do to texture your assets, and this is just one step in the pipeline. There isn't a lot of content that covers Material Maker in depth, so I figured I'd share what I've learned so far with you guys, and maybe you can take something from this and start learning Material Maker for yourself. Now, this is a material that I've made in Material Maker. It's very basic, but I'm going to show you how I made it from a beginner perspective. If there's anything that you see that you feel I could have done better, feel free to let me know in the comments. But without further ado, let's learn Material Maker. The first thing we'll cover is how does Material Maker work? So you have these things called nodes, and you connect these nodes together in a specific way to create your materials. For example, we have this noise texture node. This generates a noise texture. It has parameters that we can adjust to change the output of our noise node, and we can also see that it is an infinitely repeating texture. We can connect this to another node to further manipulate it. For example, this tonality node will manipulate the white and the black tones of our noise texture. Every time you open a new project, you'll be given a static PBR material node by default. Anything that you connect to this node will be projected onto your 3D object. So each node will have sockets. Most of the time they will have an input socket where you can feed information into that node, and all of them will have an output socket where you can send information to a different node. Not all nodes are going to connect. The socket nodes are color-coded to tell you what information it takes in and what information it sends out. If your nodes don't connect, you may be approaching something incorrectly, or you simply need to use a different node in between. But that's simply how you build materials. Connect a bunch of nodes together, and if you know what you're doing, you can create some really amazing stuff. I'll quickly go over the UI before actually building a material. There isn't a whole lot going on. You have your library, which contains all the nodes available to you. You have your preview 3D and 2D, which previews your textures and materials in their respective dimensions. Your 3D view will display whatever's plugged into your static node, while your 2D will display whatever node you have selected. I also have a reference panel up so I can load reference images in. You can enable this by going View, Panels, and selecting the panel you would like on your screen. In this case, Reference Images. You can also change the 3D model and environment lighting just here. You can set your 2D view to repeat and change some of the grid options up here as well. Now let's make a material. Now we're going for a pattern called Octagon Dot. It consists of 8-sided and 4-sided tiles. Press space while hovering over the shader graph and look for the shape node. This will bring in a shape node that we can adjust. Give it 8 sides, leave the size as it is for now, and turn the edge width to 0. Now, we want this texture to repeat itself so that it looks like a set of tiles rather than just one octagon. Search for a tile 2x2 and connect your shape node to all 4 sockets of the tile node. This will tile your shape twice on the X and twice on the Y axis. Now we can adjust the size of our octagon until it has some space in between that we would normally expect from a tile. If you don't see your shape tiling in the 2D preview, make sure that you have your tile 2x2 node selected. Let's bring in another shape and make a diamond so that we can insert it into these spaces. You can duplicate a node by selecting it and pressing Ctrl and D. We can change this to 4 sides, make it much smaller as this needs to fit in these small spaces. And now we need to just rotate this square. Connect this to a transform node. You can click and drag out from a socket. This will display a pop-up for you to search for your node. Then once you've found your node, it'll automatically connect it. Change the rotation to 45 degrees, and now we have a diamond. So we need to tile this, and you may be inclined to use the 2x2 node again, but this isn't really going to work. This is going to place our diamonds in the incorrect positions, and if we try and move it into the right spot, our shape will get cut off by the 2x2 node. Instead, we're going to use an advanced tiler node. Because our octagon is tiling twice along the X and Y axes, we'll tile our diamond out twice along both those axes as well. Now we want to move our diamonds into the correct position. We can do this by moving along the X and Y axes by adjusting the translate. A value of 0.5 will get us the results that we need. Now, we have both of our tile patterns, but how do we combine them? To do that, we can use a blend node. A blend node will just blend two textures together. We can combine them both. It will not look correct, but that's simply because we just need to change the blend mode. Because we're trying to blend white colors together, we need to change it from normal to screen. Turn the opacity up to 1, and now we have our combined patterns. Change the size of the diamond until it sits nicely in place. Now, our pattern is very zoomed in. I want it to be zoomed out just a little bit more. I'll connect our pattern to an advanced tiler node. At first, it'll change everything to white. It's halfway there, but we need to just change the scale. Whatever you're tiling by, just divide it by 10, and that'll be your scale. Because this is tiling in a 4x4, the scale will be 0.4. I'll be changing mine to 5, making the scale 0.5. Now, we've got our pattern, but this doesn't look very interesting. If I connect this to the albedo, it's just a black and white tile pattern. But let's go ahead and add some detail to this. I'll select all the nodes and hit space, adding a comment. I'll change the name by double clicking the text and renaming it to pattern. This just groups things up and keeps the workspace organized so we just know what nodes are doing what. I'm going to add 3 nodes just here, a normal, a HBAO, and an invert node. I'll connect them to the normal, ambient occlusion, and depth sockets. I'll go ahead and minimize these nodes to tidy them up, then I'll shift right click one of the input socket nodes to create a reroute, then I'll connect this reroute to all 3 of those nodes. Now these 3 nodes are going to take our black and white information and convert them into a normal map, ambient occlusion, and a height map or depth map. If we connect our pattern into this reroute, it isn't doing a crazy amount just yet, but at least we can see that it's working. I like to work with my depth turned down a little bit, so I'll be changing it to 0.1 to 0.2. I'll change the environment lighting just so we can see what's happening a little better. But now we want to add some edge damage to our tiles. There's a node called filter gradient, and this is going to help us bring in some damage to the edges of our tiles. We want to connect our pattern into the filter gradient node, but it's not going to let us. In order to connect these 2 nodes, we will have to fill our tiles in with some color information. Let's connect the advanced tiler node to a fill node. We'll change this to 2K and connect it to our filter gradient. Now, this fill node is filling in our black information, and we want it to fill in our white information. Simply just put an invert node in between this and it'll start working correctly. Now we can see our filter gradient node is doing something. It's adding a random gradient to each tile. It doesn't look great just yet, but let's add some layers of gradients. I'll set this to 10 and we can change the 3D model to a plane. If I connect this down the line, we'll see that it starts adding some cool height information. If we move this white slider across to intensify it, it'll create this cool effect that sort of looks like chipped edges from our tiles. If we add in another filter gradient node and multiply it together through a blend node, we can also see some unevenness. Basically, what's happening in all of this is our black and white information is being translated through these 3 nodes, telling light how to interact with it, where to cast shadows, and how high or deep our information should be rendered. So the black area of our gradient is telling this to slope downwards, and we can multiply these 2 together to combine that black information, and then soften up our slope by brightening our blacks. We can make this edge damage look just a little more interesting by combining it with a Voronoi texture. I'll bring in a Voronoi node, connect that to a tonality, and change its preset to ease in. This is just going to intensify the blacks a little bit. I'll turn the Voronoi scale up to about 10 and then blend it with our chipped edges with the opacity turned down to around about 30. Now, a Voronoi texture has taken effect, but it's sort of sitting over the top of everything else. We want this to only be present in the edge damage. The reason this is happening is because we are intensifying the whites before it reaches the Voronoi texture. So we can set the color ramp back to its default colors on the filter gradient node and add a colorized node after all of this from the blend node. With this, we can control the strength of our gradient on both the filter gradient node as well as the Voronoi node at the same time. Once you've adjusted, you'll see that the Voronoi texture gives our edge damage a little bit more of an interesting look. Instead of it just being flat slopes from the edges of our tiles, is a bit more of a groove in some of the areas. Now, that about sums up our edge damage. We can select all of these nodes, comment them out, and rename it accordingly. Another thing that we can do is just add little pockets around these tiles, just another layer of inconsistency. We can bring in an FBM noise node for this and switch it to Perlin. We can bump up the scale as well as the persistence and connect this to a colorized node. We can bring the white stop across and move the black over as well until you get something that looks like this. We can then combine this with the rest of our damage by blending them together also. If we turn the opacity down on our pattern to noise blend node, something very small, we can just add a light inconsistency to our overall pattern. You can add as much detail to your materials as you like, but for the sake of this video, we'll just move on to adding colors for now. Now, I would like to add two colors to this, a somewhat blue for the actual tiles and maybe a darkish sand for in between them. We can achieve this by grabbing our original pattern and using this as a mask. Where there is black, there will be sands, and where there is white, it'll be blue. Let's connect our pattern to a blend node's opacity and leave it on normal, but turn it up to 1. I'll bring in 2 color nodes, connect them and change the colors just to give you a demonstration of what it will do. Now the background is our sand color, while layer 1 is the blue color. With this in mind, we can build out each of our color materials and plug them into their respective sockets on this blend node. We can create a simple stylized kind of sand texture, bring in an FBM noise texture node, change it to Perlin and connect it to a Kuwahara node. On the Kuwahara node, set the resolution to 512, the size to around 20 and the uniformity to about 36. This gives it sort of like a nice water paintish sort of texture. I'll connect this to a colorize node and find the colors that I like. Throw a tones filter in between to get a little bit more control, and once done, plug it into the background and comment that out. Now for the blue tile, something that I'd really like to do would be to highlight the edges. I'll connect the last node from our damaged node group into a smooth curvature node. I'll turn that up to about 2K and then I'll connect it to both sockets of a multi-warp node. Change that to 2K also, turn the intensity right down, up the quality and change the mode to blur. Now, as you can see, we've created a curve map for our tiles and used the multi-warp node to sort of smudge it out a little bit. I'll also copy the noise to Kuwahara effect from the sand texture and just change the values a touch to give it a new look. You can also hit this little dice button to randomize the noise seed. But with this done, I just want to multiply this Kuwahara effect over the top of this colorized curve map with a blend node. I'll add a tones node just to soften up the Kuwahara a little bit and then plug that into the blend node for our colors. Lastly, I'll just comment out this node group, and with that, we're pretty much done. You can export this straight into your engine, you can export them to a folder and load them directly into Blender. You can even select your nodes and export them directly from the 2D preview panel. Now, we're at the end of the video and I would just like to reiterate, I'm still very new to this program. I'm sure there are things that I could have done much more effectively. I'm still trying to learn all the nodes and how they work. As my skills progress, I'll be able to create much more in-depth and better tutorials. So if this is something that you would like to see more of, subscribe to the channel and let me know. One quick tip I would like to offer that has helped me a lot. If you go to File, Load Material from Website, you'll see a library of materials that other people have made and have uploaded for anyone to check out and use. I highly recommend finding materials that you like and having a look at the nodes that they're using and how they, achieve certain things and try to recreate that in a little scratch project. There isn't an abundance of tutorials on Material Maker at the moment, which makes it hard to find any solid information on how to do something specific, but having access to a whole library means you can go in, dissect it and see exactly what they've done and how it all works. But that pretty much sums up the video for today. Use my link in the description if you want to get Pizza Doggy's all-in-one humble bundle at a discounted price. He's an amazing artist and he has really high quality work. I think that pretty much covers it. Yeah, come join the Discord. Bye.